People say they come from the biggest company you've never heard of. I come from one of the smaller companies you have heard of, Dr. Martens. I joined Dr. Martens in 2012. The business has been around since 1901 in its current form. About 1960 was when it started making Dr. Martens boots rather than just general footwear. So, as I alluded, since 2012 we've grown somewhat. Almost 10 times as many staff in the business now as in 2012. The system has scaled up very nicely, as you probably expect. We're still a very, very small business by the standards of some companies. No need to upgrade the server, no need to put more servers in spread around the world. Just plug more users in, basically. That's been critical as a part of the growth, particularly in the early days, because there just weren't enough of us. If we'd had to upgrade email servers or mess around with patching them, we'd have really, really struggled. With Gmail, that just was not an issue. Similarly, when installing the system onto a machine for somebody, it's as easy as opening up a browser and signing into it. There is no software to install. The security is based around your username and password. So as long as you have a good username and password, you're safe, you can get into it. We've not had a problem with people learning to use the system. It's been, for most people, pretty straightforward. The other side of it, which I alluded to on the previous slide, and this one as well, is as time's gone on, we've got more people in the business using mobile phones for doing email and remote working on. We have a range of other devices like iPads, Windows tablets, this sort of thing. All of these different platforms, the software works on. You can either just fire up a browser and sign into it, or alternatively, you can set it up on your iPhone so that you've got the email client on there, accessing your email. Very straightforward to do, no concern about platform support. The other thing to say is we were a peculiar business when I joined it back in 2012, in that when I joined the IT department, it felt like a US business with a UK outpost. And we are most definitely a UK company, as you're probably aware. In the last 5 years since the sale of the business, the strategy has changed. We're now very much a business that's led from the UK with sort of independent teams in the markets that are expressed there. That's given me the opportunity last year to change the reseller. I chose Ancoris based upon the research I'd done and some advice from people who'd had dealings with them. And I'm delighted to say it's made a massive difference to us. One of the great advantages of working with Ancoris is we meet with them at least quarterly. Actually, it's more like monthly, I think, in terms of site visits. So we're always up to date with what's coming next from Google. I've got the confidence that if something is going to change, I can let the users know. And more importantly, we can base our strategy going forwards on the future technology coming in from Google. So huge difference between having a faceless US reseller and a business in the UK that we work with and interact with very closely. Google Plus is a good example of a new product we've adopted recently. That's been running for about 9 months now. I think we've gone from 0 to about 600 regular users of the system and still growing, because that's obviously still a small proportion of the total business. We're literally now having people saying, how the hell did we do without this before? It's used by the CEO to provide sort of thoughts and insights on what he's up to and what he's been doing. We've got teams using it across the sales and retail parts of the business, sharing ideas and passing on information. And of course, anybody in the business can see it and interact with it. So it's been an excellent way of stimulating sort of comment and suggestions within the business. What next for us? Well, we currently use the basic product. It's worked very well for us. The business is now getting to a point where we're starting to behave a bit more like an enterprise and a bit like a cottage industry, which is what we were a few years ago. So we're now we're asking Ancoris, well, can't we do this, or doesn't it do that? And increasingly the answer is, well, if you had the business product, it would do that, or rather it does do that. You just can't see that part of it. An example of that would be good old GDPR. We've started to engage with it, as I'm sure you all have. I wouldn't say that we are fully compliant any more than anybody else is. I've had conversations with our legal team who are driving it. They've asked a great number of questions and gone away and thought about things and have come back with some sort of steps we need to take. One of those would be, what happens if we lose a member of staff and they delete all their email before they leave? Well, at the moment, that email will be gone. We wouldn't be able to get it back. We already have a couple of Vault licenses. The Vault product is part of the sort of e-discovery and protection solution that Google offers, so that if one of our users deletes their email and goes, we can still recover the email. It's not actually deleted. It appears to be deleted for the user, but it's still there and it's still accessible for the purposes of the legal team if they need to pursue something. Equally, we end up having to keep accounts open for directors who've left because we don't want to lose the email trail and the history of communications that we have with them. Actually, of course, what we ought to be doing is archiving that email into the Google solution so that we can take the account offline, but still the data is accessible there. So we're, well, finding it harder and harder to find reasons not to move on to the business product. It's the next logical step for us. We've gone from being a small business struggling with the idea of trying to scale up to being a much bigger enterprise business where we've suddenly got to start behaving like an enterprise rather than a cottage industry. Hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of our journey with Google. Certainly, I don't know how we as a team would have managed it without that platform, cloud-based, the combination of fairly limited IT resources, growth in staff numbers and also growth in number of sites. It's simply scaled with us. It's not something we've had to worry about. So you know, for me, that's the major thing. If you're in a business that is expected to grow, this solves a lot of IT headaches for you. Okay, thank you.